thanks for having me. Really
Yeah.
excited to be here and glad that you're having these conversations because they're important. So yeah, mine was March, now I'm gonna forget the date because March 15th,
Okay.
2022.
Okay.
We were playing in a preseason game against actually the US under 23
Okay.
women's team. And I remember I was playing right winger. I was dribbling, trying to go 1v1, and I cut the ball back to my left foot, and the defender very skillfully kind of cut me off.
Sure.
And when I went to win the ball back, I stuck my leg out to kind of affect the play, and she somehow got her other leg stuck behind me and then kind of leaned in.
Okay.
And so my knee went inside while my foot was outside, and immediately heard a pop and felt a lot of pain. And I don't really remember what happened after that. I know I was screaming really loud because my fiance was on the other side of the stadium and he remembers hearing me scream bloody murder.
Okay.
And so I had my eyes closed the whole time. I didn't open my eyes, but I do remember our medical staff came out and I knew right away that it was my knee. And I feel like a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
You just know. And I have never had a major injury, so you don't really understand what people mean when they say that until you do it.
Totally.
I just knew it was really bad because of the way that it felt. And so then when I opened my eyes, I was inside. They had taken me inside and were doing all of the checks, but it was quite hard for them to tell because I had like locked up quite a lot.
Sure. Those types of things.
Yeah, and so I think it was pretty early in the game. So they finished the game. Our doctor was there, thankfully, kind of let me have my moment a little. And then I actually went and got an x-ray at the stadium. So I calmed down. They took me, wheeled me in a little wheelchair with our physical therapist and my fiance across. We have a clinic that's attached to our stadium, which is pretty cool.
Sure.
And so they did an x-ray to make sure nothing was broken. The x-ray was clear. And then after the game, our doctor came in and said, I'm worried about your ACL. We'll get you an MRI. I got an MRI the next day.
Okay.
And yeah, I will not forget where I was when I got the call. I was sitting at a Starbucks. My family's name is Ethan, and
Sure.
she called me, and when you can hear the disappointment in someone's voice, and I just knew. And so yeah, that was a pretty devastating day. But I think there's like a little piece of you that holds on to hope.
Totally.
That you're just, maybe something little, maybe pain isn't actually a reflection of worst case scenario. But yeah, for me, it was worst case scenario. I had a complete rupture of my ACL.
Okay.
And they could see tears in both my medial and lateral meniscus. So that first day was just a lot of sleep. And then I was actually in physical therapy the day after my surgery. So we didn't waste any time. And for those who have gone through this, for those who haven't, it's a lot of very basic movements, but things that end up becoming very difficult, like single leg lifts, sitting on a table, kind of trying to stimulate that quad a little bit, and just checking incisions and that kind of thing. So my PT Bill and I actually had a running joke that we were trying to get days in a row where I didn't cry in my rehab. And so I think for that first 2 weeks, it was every day something made me cry, whether that was physical or mental. And so that was a fun little thing that we did. But when I finally got to the point where I wasn't crying anymore and we got to start that streak, that was cool.
Yeah.
I remember transitioning into walking was quite difficult for me, just from a mechanical point of view.
Sure.
It's really weird to learn how to walk again.
Totally.
And amongst, again, I'll mention all the things that I've learned, just the amount of respect I have for people who have disabilities or have long-term injuries or accidents that they have to find that wiring from brain to muscle again is really, really difficult and not something I think a lot of people have respect for. And I'll never forget the first day I put weight on my foot and it felt like 1,000 needles were shooting into the bottom of my foot, because when you've not put your foot on the ground for 6 weeks and it's like, what the heck are you doing? But I will, that transition back into walking was hard.
Was a little
And I
tough. Okay.
remember getting my quad to fire was really difficult for me,
Okay.
and probably more mentally frustrating than
Sure.
physically difficult.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of a lot of needling, a lot
Yep.
of stem with the
Yep.
needle to just
Yep.
kind of try and get that back. And then, yeah, I think you underestimate everything that you need to walk. So that was hard. Yeah. So once I started to walk, it was, I don't really remember like taking off from there, but I
Yeah.
remember my rehab distinctly changing after that. And
Yep.
like I was a lot more sore, and
Sure.
we were starting to introduce new things. The one thing I did forget to mention was I had a very close relationship with the BFR, with the blood flow
Yep.
restriction
There you
machine. We
go.
had a very tumultuous relationship, me and that machine, but
Yep.
very useful when it comes to
Yep.
building my quad back.
Yep.
So yeah, I think just like that strength building phase can feel
Okay.
really long.
Yeah.
And then not to get too anatomical here, but there's obviously that phase where the ACL is still really vulnerable.
Sure.
So you have to be really careful with the movements. And I
Yep.
think that's where a lot of people get it wrong sometimes and kind of try and
Sure.
push through that
Yep.
phase a little bit faster than necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I'm really grateful for. I work with an incredibly intelligent physical therapist who has done this a lot and
Yeah.
knows that one, there's protocol, but two, that everybody's different and everybody's
Totally.
going to progress or regress in different ways.
Yep.
And so for me, I think that strength building phase was really important. And
Yeah.
I did have, I had a bone patella bone
Yep.
graft,
Okay.
which, as far as I know, I think a lot of surgeons are moving away from just because it can make rehab really difficult, which I definitely experienced.
Okay. So did you
Um,
have some patellar tendon pain?
I had a lot.
Okay.
So when
Okay.
we started to get into that strength phase and I was doing more goblet squatting and eventually single leg squatting, that kind of thing, I
Yep.
was in a lot of pain in the front of my knee. I
Okay.
described it as like it felt like someone was sticking a knife through my kneecap,
Sure.
which is not a very comfortable
Yeah.
feeling.
Yep.
And so that was difficult to work through. And that's where I kind of spoke about like when as athletes you're told to push through something, I was
Yeah.
like, I've never experienced this. How far do
Absolutely.
I push? When do I tell you that it's too much pain?
Yep.
And so we kind of had to figure that out.
Yeah.
And what ended up being the reason is that my quad was not strong enough to take that um, load, and so my
Sure.
patella tendon was trying to take the load and wasn't ready for that. So we had
Yep.
to adjust, and I
Okay.
think that's part of the rehab process. But that strength building phase was really long for me.
Yeah.
That was probably the most difficult period of my rehab, and it was very painful for me. So when I came back to Portland for good, I was kind of at that 3.5, 4 month
Okay.
post-surgery mark. And
Yep.
for most athletes, they say, I think between like like 3 to 5 months is kind of
Yep.
like
Yep.
four is usually where
Four.
athletes
Yeah.
start running.
Yep.
So I had done one Alter G session while I was still in
Okay.
Miami.
Okay.
Um, Never forget that. It was great. I felt like I was free.
Yeah.
But it was hard. Like I definitely still had that pain in my tendon, and I was like, when is this
Yeah.
gonna go away? And then you feel I always explain it like sometimes I still get the pain. It feels like I hit the front of my knee really hard on like a
Okay.
wall, and
Yeah.
like that impact that shoots
Yep.
up your bone, and like it's just movement and impact that your
Yep.
body's not used to having. So I did that first Ultra G session, was great, didn't have any issues, came back, and just kind of continued on from there, which was really
Yep.
great. That transition was really smooth. Did a lot of sessions on the Ultra G. That was
Okay.
another
Okay.
little machine that I had a great relationship
Yeah.
with.
Sure.
And I was really ready to graduate from the Alter G to the field.
Yep.
So that was probably, I didn't run full body weight on field till after 5 months. So
Okay.
mine was, I would say, in the comparison to a lot of athletes that I know that have done ACLs, mine was, I had a very conservative, long,
Sure.
drawn out rehab, which if I
Yep.
was to do it all over again, I would do the same thing.
Yep.
That's just what I needed. And
Sure.
it was a collective decision between a lot of really intelligent people that I
Yep.
wasn't ready to run when the research says you can run. I wasn't ready.
Yep.
So that
Sure.
was hard for me to conceptualize, especially
Mm-hmm.
as as athletes, we're not very patient, which is, I
Totally.
think, makes us really good at what we do,
Yep.
but difficult when you're told, just wait, be patient, not
Yep.
yet. And so that first day I got to run was really great. It was just
Yeah.
one short, really slow lap
Sure.
in my tennis shoes
Sure.
around the field, and
Yep.
another thing that you really have to celebrate the small things when you're going through
Absolutely.
rehab, and that was not a small thing. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
I really feel like, to use your earlier pun, that was when I really hit the ground running in
Yeah.
my, like, from running on field to being back in a soccer environment
Yep.
was pretty quick for me.
Big. Yeah.
Well, it felt quick in the grand
Yep.
scheme of things. It wasn't, but yeah, so at that point I was kind of like, okay, I felt like I had rebounded from
Good.
not the setbacks, but the some of the pain and frustration I had earlier in my rehab. So one of the tests that I did very early on, well, not very early on, but when I could start to kind of put some power through my knee,
Yeah.
was, I'm gonna literally not, I'm gonna totally botch the name of this. I don't even know. You like attach your ankle to
Yeah.
something that you push against and it gives you a
Yep.
number. All right,
Yep.
that's the best way I can describe
Yep.
it.
The
Uh,
Biodex.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Biodex, thank you.
Yep. Yep.
So the Biodex machine, I actually didn't get on until really close to my return,
Okay.
which is not super normal. I know people do that kind of like
Leading.
throughout.
Sure.
Um, we did kind of a different version of it with, that was more of like one of those handheld
Yep.
devices, and you're
Yep.
just sitting on like a box.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of difficulty doing that or
Sure.
putting any kind of force through the front of my knee for a really
Yep.
long time because of that patella pain.
Yep.
So that was really frustrating and felt really concerning to me. Everyone that I
Sure.
worked with assured me that it wasn't an issue. Like, just
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. And when I talked to my surgeon about it, he was very clear. Like, when your quad gets stronger, the pain will go away. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna trust you because this is like really bad. And
Yep.
behold, he was of course right. But that it did take a long time for that pain to
Okay.
go away. I still look at my quads and think there's a difference, but I think it's just me
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
And so then when I started to get stronger and was able to do a bit more, I did a lot on the VALD testing machines.
Okay.
So adductor, abductor
Yep.
testing, a lot of hip,
Yep.
um, kind of like hamstring force, those kinds of things.
Yep.
And then at a certain point, I started to do some jump testing, some
Sure.
on the force plates.
Yep.
My single leg jumping was really bad for a long time, which
Okay.
was again something that I was quite concerned about. And I knew
Yeah.
that was going to be one of the biggest markers for them to check the box of me
Sure. Being
progressing through
cleared.
my rehab. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and then it wasn't until like right at the beginning of preseason of this year, I did the Biodex for the first time, which
Okay.
is
Okay.
not an enjoyable experience. It's
Yep.
very hard. So I have sympathy for everyone who's ever had to do it.
Yep.
Even on my non-surgical leg, I was like, this is awful. But it does give you some really great
Yeah.
information. I had actually regressed a decent amount from doing the force testing through the front of my knee to actually getting on the Biodex. And I don't know if that was a reflection of like different tests or that kind of
Sure.
thing.
Sure.
Or if I had just kind of moved on to a different part of my rehab and I
Yeah.
wasn't getting that same load through my quad as I was
Yep.
before I started running. So that kind of made us all take a step back and say, okay, where is she actually at? We
Yeah.
want to make sure
Yep.
you don't want to rush into anything, especially because I was like, I don't want to do this again. So let's
Yeah.
just make sure we do it right the first time.
Yep.
And then at that point, I had already started to do on-field return to play work that was more like technical work, cutting,
Sure.
dribbling, and then introduction to um, contact, which
Yep.
was hard and a little bit
Yeah.
more drawn out than I had initially anticipated.
Yeah.
I had a fantastic sports or strength conditioning coach that I was working with who uh, volunteered to defend me many, many days
Sure.
and go at me many days. So that was probably one of my favorite parts of the rehab, was kind of getting to do that and build that
Yeah.
relationship and have fun with it and make
Sure.
it an enjoyable experience, because you never want to be the player that's on the side
Yep.
doing one-on-one work.
Totally.
And then, yeah, I don't even remember my first full session back. it was such a progression. I was like on the outside of a possession drill, and then I was a
Yeah.
neutral possession
Sure.
and was a neutral
Sure.
for a while, and then all of a sudden people can touch me, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So all of that happened pretty fast. And I actually did a lot of that testing through the first couple of months of the season, which was cool
Okay.
to see progress.
So talk me through maybe a little bit about like what you struggled with psychologically and mentally as an athlete, and just knowing that it's going to be a while till you get back on the pitch, but also of like some of the things that you learned how to cope with some of those things too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say without a doubt, the psychological and mental aspect of a major injury is 100 times harder than the physical. I was in a lot of pain. It was physically the hardest thing I've ever done, but mentally trumped the physical, like by far. I think what was huge for me was being in an environment outside of my team. That was really important. It didn't hurt that I was in a place like Miami where it's sunny.
Totally.
And, you know, I could go when my incisions were healed and sit by the pool. I got to spend time with my fiance and his family. I actually got engaged in the midst of my rehab, which was a fun little caveat that I didn't expect. And so to answer your question about kind of my coping mechanisms, my coping mechanism was my fiance 100% for the first probably 2.5 months. Just really being able to completely switch off from being a soccer player. I mean, like, I had full intention of watching my team play every game, but there was just times where I was like, I can't watch this, and turn it off, go read a book. Like, what's really great is, as hard as it is mentally, the door opens a lot to things that I haven't been able to do as a professional athlete in 8 years of being a professional athlete, where I can, you know, go have a cheat meal and really enjoy it. And like, I really tried to find those things that I knew at some point I wasn't going to be able to do again because I was going to be back. And so, yeah, like sitting by the pool all day, being lazy in bed on like one day off, like just those little things that are different. That was probably my biggest coping mechanism. And then I tried to do my rehab like first thing in the morning so I could get it over with when I had the most energy. And a lot of those ended up being really early mornings, and it was actually my right knee, so I wasn't able to drive for quite a long time. My poor fiance really had just dealt with the worst of me a lot of those mornings. So I really owe him. I still owe him big time for all of it. But I think just like really giving myself the grace to know that I didn't know how to do that. Like, just kind of accepting that. And as a professional athlete, we have standards and we're impatient, like I said. And so I was really frustrated with not knowing how to kind of go into those situations where we all have like, I don't want to go lift when I need to lift sometimes. I don't want to go train when it's hot outside. Like, doing things that we don't have to do are the things that makes the difference. And so I never wanted to do rehab. It was not an enjoyable thing to do. The people that you're around and the end goal is what makes it enjoyable, but in the moment it's really quite brutal. And so a lot of times I just thought about how I would feel when the session was over. And it was a really great motivator for me. Like, this is an hour and a half of your day, and it's gonna suck, and you know it's gonna suck, but like, you get to do this with a person that you enjoy being around. And and every single day I would like treat myself with a coffee, because all of the clinics ended up being next to coffee. I was like, it's nice. So I gave myself a reward, or I knew that I was gonna be able to do A, B, and C for the rest of my day. And then I think for me it was breaking it up into those segments. Like, I know I'm going to be on crutches for 6 weeks. So like, get through this 6 weeks and then you'll be in the next phase. And there were definitely like the strength phase was really long for me. That felt really redundant, and you're doing the same exercises every day for weeks on end, and it feels like it's never ending. So I would definitely say, like, I think I was really frustrated and really
Yeah.
angry
Yeah.
and through a lot of it. And I wouldn't want to lie about that. I think it's,
Sure.
it's an enjoyable thing to go through.
Yeah.
And if someone can come and have a conversation with me and say they enjoyed their rehab process, I would be like, you're a liar
Yeah.
because no
Something's not
one
right.
enjoys this. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
And so I just think that you have to keep it real with yourself. You have
Yeah.
to keep it real with the people around you. Like I'm very much a people pleaser. I'm very much
Okay.
I don't want a coach or a trainer or a physio to think I'm in a bad mood or
Sure.
like
Sure.
I don't like that. I don't like that perception of me.
Yeah.
But what was really important for me was to be honest about how I was feeling. Like there
Yeah.
were so many days when I went into rehab and I was like, I'm just not in the mood for this.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna have to get me through this today.
Sure.
And when you show up as you are
Yep.
to that, it actually makes it easier, strangely enough, to like
Yeah.
get yourself out of that. Whereas if, people say fake it till you make it, which
Yeah.
sometimes by all means you have to.
Yep.
But for me, it was kind of the opposite. Like, be honest about how you're feeling in this day, knowing that I was going to do whatever I needed to do to like
Yep.
get what I needed to get out of the session. But
Right.
showing and being honest about how I felt in the moment was really important for me. And that was a
Yeah.
big lesson that I've learned even now.
Where do we go from here with women's soccer?
How can we bring in more experts around strength and conditioning and the female anatomy and
Yep.
menstrual cycles and all of that? And a lot of what I've heard from like research that's been done is, we look a lot into what actually, and I think this is so overdue, but there's not enough information made easily accessible for athletes specifically around the different phases of your menstrual cycle and actually what your body needs in those different periods. So a lot of people say, okay, well, like I just started my menstrual cycle and all I want to do is eat. Okay, well, there's a reason for that because that's a phase that your body is going through. So actually having the education to let female athletes and females in general know there's actually deeper science behind this, and it's not just, oh, this is just something that women go through. No, like your body is actually going through a really dramatic physical change every month. And like we got to figure out how to kind of compound that. So one of my closest friends, Jessie Fleming, was at Chelsea, and they actually had a specialist come in and they would track their cycles and what they needed to be doing in each phase of their cycle in order to optimize performance, which I think is really cool. And definitely something that needs to be more across the board. I would also say, like, I know some footwear companies like Nike are starting to create and curate boots that are specifically for the anatomy of women. So whether that's the way the plate of a boot is shaped, or the heel cup, or the way that it's laced, because we are prone to certain injuries based on our anatomy, which is, like you said, just one of those things that you can't change. So what are we doing to combat those things? And then the other thing is just like, one thing I will say is I was, I'm 29. I had a long career before I had a major injury. And one of the reasons I think that I was healthy for so long is I learned how to lift properly really young. So I had great strength and conditioning coaches available to me in high school. So I started lifting as a high school freshman. I was doing like hang cleans and front squats and like RDLs and, like deadlifts. And I was taught the correct way to do that. And so when you're a female going through a lot of hormonal change, one thing you can be consistent about is knowing how to correctly lift and build your muscles. Like you said, proprioception and plyometrics, doing all of that from an early age and helping develop those muscles. Like I have really distinct VMOs in my legs because I work on that. Like and that's knee protection, which is, I really don't think, and I don't even know if this matters, but I don't think that I would have ever had a major injury if it wasn't for it being contact. Like I have been lucky enough to be in environments where I'm prepared from a physical standpoint to endure what it takes to be a professional footballer. And what's really great is, unfortunately, this epidemic of ACLs is not a new thing, but the coverage and the knowledge around it is growing. I know that over in England, they've just started a really big project. Wow, what project is the word I was looking for? Studying ACL injuries across WSL and in professional athletes, and hearing their stories and what kind of resources they have. And as our game continues to change and as we are expected to play more games, our resources have to match that expectation, which, we've asked. We want to have more games. We want to be considered higher professionals and get paid more and all these things. And with that expectation comes the expectation that we're taken care of in a way that allows us to do that. So I think there's definitely a really big gap that needs to be filled. I definitely, in the women's game, there's enough people that are moving towards that it's going to get better and we're going to continue to learn. So yeah, I think it's not going to change. Like, this is going to be something that we continue to see, because there is a level of it that is just our sport and the way that we move and what's expected of our bodies, and injury comes with that. If we can learn more to combat that, great. But this isn't something that's going away. So the more research we can do and the more we can learn, the better.